I never imagined I'd be in this place. Sitting in my car at 2 a.m., engine running but going nowhere, trying to figure out when everything started falling apart. Maybe it wasn't one single moment. Maybe the cracks were always there, thin fractures on a mirror I was too in love to see clearly. We had been together for 2 years, but I'd known her longer, 5 to be exact. I remember the first time we met. She walked into the room like she didn't belong there, like the air was too heavy for her chest, and I saw it in her eyes, that kind of haunted softness that only comes from surviving things people don't talk about. Even then, I knew she carried damage. Not the kind that fades with time, but the kind that reshapes who you are. She told me stories of men who mistreated her. Emotionally, physically, used her until there was barely anything left. But even through all that, she had this compassion in her, this impossible tenderness that baffled me. She could cry for a wounded animal on the street, but not for herself. And me? I'm the opposite. I feel like a machine most days. Numb, calculating, surviving, not living. Maybe that's why I was drawn to her. She reminded me what it looked like to feel, even if it was always through pain. I wanted to protect her. Maybe that was my first mistake. Thinking I could be a savior when all I really was just another man she'd cry to when the world broke her again. From the beginning, I knew she had issues with boundaries. She told me she had something close to dependent personality disorder. She didn't use the words exactly, but she described it well enough. The idea of saying no to someone, especially a man, scared her more than the consequences of giving in. She had been conditioned since she was young to keep people happy, to keep men pleased. Saying no was never really an option. It wasn't right, but it was her reality. But I told myself she wouldn't do that with me. That our connection was different. That she'd finally found someone who didn't want anything from her but her truth. God, how naive I was. The first time it happened, the first betrayal, she cried so hard I thought she'd stop breathing. Said she didn't know why she let it happen. Said it was fast. Said she wanted to say no. Said she hated herself. I believed her. I forgave her. Not because I'm weak. At least that's what I told myself. But because I understood her trauma. I thought maybe this wasn't cheating in the traditional sense. Maybe this was another chapter in her pattern. A result of years of being broken down. But then it happened again. And then again. 3 men. 3 betrayals. And suddenly, I couldn't hide behind psychology and excuses. I had to face a fact I wasn't ready to accept. She knew what she was doing. Maybe she didn't set out to do it. Maybe she hated herself after. But in that moment, in those moments, she made a choice. A choice that cut me open each time. The third time shattered me. Not just because of the act, but because of how I reacted. I almost drove to the guy's house. I was furious. Not just at him, but at her, at myself, at the whole damn situation. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I remember her running out, trying to get in the car with me. I let her. I don't even know why. Maybe because I didn't want to be the man who dragged a screaming woman out of his path. But when we were almost there, maybe 3 minutes away, she started yelling. Screaming for help. Fighting me. Clawing at the windows like I was the danger now. That's when it hit me like a cold slap across the face. This man didn't force her. She went willingly. All the pain, the yelling, the crying. It couldn't change that. She chose him. And I was about to wreck my life for what? For pride? For revenge? I pulled over. Couldn't breathe. My entire identity, everything I thought I was, felt like it had been yanked out of me and tossed into the highway. That night, I told her it was over. She begged. She pleaded. Said she didn't realize I would actually leave. Said if she had known this would cost her me, she never would have done it. But isn't that the point? You only realize what you've lost when it's too late. And still, somehow, I went back. I hate myself for it. But I did. Going back felt like standing on a battlefield with no armor. I knew what I was walking into. I knew I couldn't trust her. But something inside me, some broken part that still believed she was worth saving, convinced me to give her one more chance. I thought, if there's even a fraction of the girl I fell for still left in there, maybe we can find our way back to each other. So we made a deal. Not a romantic one. Not a sweet, let's fix this together kind of agreement. No, it was raw, ugly, desperate. I told her if she truly wanted to make things right, she needed to help me expose the man she slept with. He had a girlfriend, too. He wasn't innocent. He didn't drug her. He didn't force her. But he still crossed a line, and I wanted his girlfriend to know who she was lying next to every night. I told her we tell her, or we're done. She agreed. That was the deal. But you know what happens when someone agrees to something just to keep you? They find ways around it. They dilute the truth. They twist it. And that's exactly what she did. First, she said she'd messaged the girlfriend. Just needed time to find her. Fine. I gave her that. I gave her space, time, breathing room, all the while watching her carefully. She cried a lot during those days. Not in the same way as before, though. It wasn't grief anymore. It was fear. Fear of losing the shelter I'd become for her. I was her rock, her therapist, her stability. And she knew without me, she'd have to face her reflection. Alone. Eventually, she messaged one of the girlfriends. Not the one from the third guy. Just one. A guy she admitted to letting in at work. That was her phrase. Letting him in. Like it was her home. Like she just left the door unlocked and shrugged when someone walked through. I asked her, what about the others? She said, they don't have girlfriends. Or if they do, I don't know how to find them. I didn't believe her, but I was so tired, so emotionally gutted that I didn't press it. I told myself at least she messaged one. At least she did something. But deep down, I knew she only did the bare minimum. Enough to stop me from walking away, not because she truly felt remorse. And then something even stranger started happening. After the crying stopped, she began to soften, like really soften. She would wake up in the morning and touch my face like I was some fragile thing, like she was afraid I'd vanish. She made me breakfast. She wrote notes. She offered to stay home more. She swore she was cutting off every guy who ever made a comment about her body. But I couldn't feel anything. I was numb. I'd stare at her while she talked and wonder who I was even looking at. This girl, this person I had put on a pedestal for years, felt like a stranger wearing her skin. Her words didn't reach me anymore. Her touch didn't spark anything. I started to feel like I was trapped in a relationship I didn't recognize, with a version of her that didn't exist. And yet, there were moments I still wanted to comfort her. I hated that part of myself. Hated it more than I hated her. Because even after everything, when I saw her curled up on the bed crying, I wanted to hold her. I wanted to wipe her tears. I wanted to lie to myself and believe that this time we could fix it. That this time it meant something. But every time I almost reached for her, something inside me screamed, "No, not this time. Don't you dare." I was at war with myself. Half of me wanted to scream at her, demand answers she'd never be able to give me honestly. The other half wanted to sit in silence and pretend none of it happened. Just fast forward to some future where we were okay again. But there is no fast forward. There's only now. And now felt like drowning. I started noticing little things. How she flinched when I asked where she'd been. How she avoided eye contact when I brought up the past. How she got defensive at questions that should have been easy. And worst of all, how quickly she shifted the blame. She'd say things like, "You act like I meant to hurt you. If you weren't so cold, maybe I wouldn't have looked for warmth elsewhere. I didn't even enjoy it. It didn't mean anything." But that's the thing. It didn't have to mean anything to her. It meant everything to me. She thought that if it wasn't emotional, it didn't count. Like cheating is only real if you fall in love. But betrayal doesn't need romance. Sometimes the sharpest knives come from the people who claim they had no intention of cutting you. I wanted consequences. Real ones. Not tears. Not apologies. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, to carry it like I carried it. But every time I tried to make her see it, I felt like the villain. Like I was the monster who wouldn't let it go. Started to chip away at me. My sense of self. My clarity. My direction. Who was I even anymore? I wasn't her boyfriend. I wasn't her enemy. I wasn't healed. I wasn't whole. I was just stuck. And that's when it really hit me. This wasn't just about her cheating. This was about me losing myself. I kept telling myself, just hold on until the lease is up. Then we'll go our separate ways, and I'll finally be free. But each day between now and then felt like I was living in a haunted house. Every smile from her looked like a mask. Every, "I love you," echoed like a hollow threat. It wasn't just that she had cheated. It was that she never stopped lying, even when she said she was done. I started to pay closer attention. Little things, details she'd mess up, timestamps that didn't add up, words she'd repeat almost rehearsed. I'd ask a simple question, something harmless, and watch how fast her pupils would dart. Her jaw would tighten. I wasn't looking for reasons to accuse her. I was begging for reasons not to, but I kept catching her. One night, we were just sitting on the couch. It was quiet. She was scrolling through her phone. I asked her about one of the guys from her work. A guy I knew she had a moment with, not even the main one, just a side character in this mess. She paused, looked up, and said, "Oh, him? We never really talked. I think he left the company." A harmless sentence, right? Except the day before, I had seen a notification on her screen, his name, a message preview. Nothing crazy. Just, "Hey, you good?" But it was enough. She lied. To my face. Without blinking. Without hesitation. I didn't even react. Just nodded. Pretended I believed her. But inside, something cracked. And I felt it, that slow detachment, the kind that doesn't come from anger, but from total exhaustion. From that point on, every conversation became a test. I wasn't even trying to fix anything anymore. I just wanted to see how deep the rot went. I'd bring up old events, small details. I'd watch her reconstruct them in real time, shaping reality around whatever narrative made her look the least guilty. She didn't realize she was doing it, or maybe she did and just hoped I'd be too tired to notice. But I noticed, every time. I remember sitting in bed one night, staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me. Her breathing was steady, peaceful, and I hated her for it. Hated that she could find rest while my brain felt like it was burning alive. Because here's the thing people don't tell you about betrayal. It's not just the act. It's the rewriting afterward, the gaslighting, the emotional tug-of-war between what you know and what they want you to believe. You start to question your own memory, your own standards, your own sanity. I used to be decisive, sharp, emotionally cold, maybe, but clear. Now, I was foggy, numb, like I was looking at my life through dirty glass. I didn't know who I was anymore. And the scariest part? I didn't know if I even cared. One afternoon, I found myself driving to nowhere again. No destination, just silence. I parked on the edge of some overlook and sat there for hours, watching cars crawl by below like little moving regrets. I thought about what my life used to look like, what I thought love was supposed to be. I thought about her smile. Not the fake one she used around me now, but the real one from when we first met. The way she used to look at me like I was the answer to something. Maybe I was. But somewhere along the way, I became part of the problem. I went home that night and told her I needed to distance myself. Emotionally, mentally, whatever was left of me. She didn't fight it. Not like before. No screaming. No begging. Just a quiet nod and a okay. It was worse than any outburst. Because it meant she knew. She knew we were done. And honestly, I think she had known long before I did. She just didn't want to be the one to end it. She wanted me to pull the trigger so she could tell herself she tried. That she fought. That I was the one who couldn't let it go. But the truth is, she let it go the second she opened that door for someone else. The second she invited him in. The second she told him yes when she should have told him no. I spent days after that sleeping on the couch. Or pretending to sleep. I'd stare at the ceiling and think about the version of me before all of this. The one who still believed in people. The one who thought loyalty meant something. The one who thought being the good guy was enough. And then I'd think about her. About how even now, I still had moments where I wanted to hold her. Not out of love, but out of some twisted sense of duty. As if I was the last person on earth who could stop her from falling apart. But I couldn't. I wasn't her savior. and she wasn't my home anymore. We had become two ghosts in the same apartment, drifting past each other, faking routines, keeping the peace until the lease ended and one of us could finally leave without another fight. That was the plan. Just make it to the end. But something in me was already gone. And the man who'd walk out that door when it was all over, he wouldn't be the same one who walked in. I used to think that when a relationship ends, it explodes. Screaming, accusations, doors slamming, one final dramatic fight, and then it's over, clean, decisive, cinematic. But that's not how we ended. We rotted, quietly, from the inside out. There were no more breakdowns, no more angry confrontations, no more desperate apologies, just silence. The kind that wraps around you like a wet blanket, heavy, suffocating, empty. We still shared the same space, the same bed sometimes, the same routines. We'd pass each other in the kitchen like co-workers who used to date once, long ago, and both regretted it. She'd ask if I wanted coffee. I'd say no. I'd ask if she'd be home late. She'd shrug. We were just existing. Every now and then, she'd reach for me. Not physically, emotionally. She'd ask, "Are we okay?" And I'd nod. Because what else was left to say? I didn't have the energy to explain the hundreds of little betrayals that came after the big ones. Because here's the truth no one likes to admit. After someone cheats on you, you don't just stop trusting them. You stop trusting yourself. Every choice I made felt poisoned. Every instinct second-guessed. I'd catch myself wondering, was I not enough? Did I miss something? Was I too distant? Too cold? Too much like a machine? I hated that I even entertained those questions. Because I was enough. I had bent over backwards for her. I'd forgiven what others would have walked away from instantly. I tried to understand the trauma. I tried to be more than just her boyfriend. I tried to be her foundation. And maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I tried to be everything when all she wanted was escape. One night, not long before the lease was set to expire, we sat on the balcony. The city lights blinked like dying stars. She was drinking wine. I was drinking silence. She looked at me, eyes tired, and asked, "Do you still love me?" I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I did. Finally, I looked at her, really looked, and realized I didn't love her anymore. Not the way I used to. Not the way you're supposed to. Pitied her. I mourned what we were, but I didn't love her. "I don't know," I said. She nodded like she expected that, maybe even deserved it. We sat there for a long time. No music, no words. Just the hum of traffic below and the quiet ache of two people pretending they hadn't already left each other months ago. From that night on, we barely spoke. Some days she'd come home late. I wouldn't ask where she'd been. Other nights, she'd be home early, making dinner. I wouldn't eat it. She started watching movies in the bedroom. I started sleeping on the couch again. We were both waiting for the clock to run out. A slow death. Countdown to nothing. It's wild how fast someone can become a stranger. How someone you once kissed like oxygen now feels like static in your peripheral vision. Like a painting you used to stare at for hours, now gathering dust in the corner. I started making plans for after. I didn't even realize I was doing it at first. Just little things. Googling apartments. Updating my resume. Making lists of things I'd take with me. I felt like I was building a lifeboat on a sinking ship, one screw at a time. Sometimes I'd catch her watching me. Not angry. Not even sad. Just empty. Like she knew I was drifting. And she had no strength left to swim after me. One morning, I woke up and found her standing by the window. Just standing there. Still in her pajamas. Staring out like she expected someone to be waiting for her down below. "I guess this is really it, huh?" she said without turning. "Yeah," I replied. That was it. No begging. No tears. Just acknowledgement. We were done. And not in some clean, satisfying way. There was no revenge. No dramatic ending. Just two people who had hurt each other too deeply to go back. And too tired to pretend they could still move forward. There were times in those final days where I wanted to go back to the beginning. Back to when she looked at me like I mattered. Back to when I still believed that love could fix people. But we don't get to go back. We only get to carry forward what we've learned or what we've lost. She asked if we could stay friends. I didn't answer, because deep down I knew the truth. There's no friendship at the end of betrayal. There's just memory, and mine was sharp enough to keep me from ever going back. When she finally moved out, the apartment felt bigger, but not in a good way. Not in the "I've got space now" kind of way. It felt bigger, like a cave after a collapse, hollow, echoing, haunted by the sound of what used to be. Her scent still clung to the curtains. Her hair ties were still on the bathroom sink. And for days, I kept hearing phantom footsteps, like my brain refused to accept she was actually gone. But she was gone for real this time. I stood in the kitchen the first morning after she left, holding a mug I didn't remember buying, and realized something that both terrified and relieved me. I had no idea who I was anymore, because for 2 years I wasn't just me. I was her boyfriend, her fixer, her protector, her emotional sponge. Every decision I made factored her in, even when she was tearing me apart. And now I was just here, alone, and in a strange, uncomfortable way, free. But freedom isn't always comforting. Sometimes it feels like being set adrift with no compass. No one to fight for, no one to fight with, just silence, and your thoughts. And believe me, mine were loud. I replayed everything, every lie, every moment I almost walked away but didn't. Every time I heard my gut whisper, "This isn't love," and chose to ignore it. I didn't need anyone else to punish me. I did a damn good job of that on my own. There were nights I stared at my phone, tempted to message her, not because I missed her, but because the absence itself was deafening. I'd catch myself crafting texts I'd never send. Why wasn't I enough? Did you ever really love me? Do you miss me? Or just the safety I gave you? But I never pressed send, because deep down I knew the answers. And more importantly, I knew those answers didn't matter anymore. The closure I kept searching for? I realized it wasn't something she could give me. It was something I had to build myself, brick by brick, from the wreckage. So I started slow. I unfollowed her on everything, deleted pictures, erased saved messages, not out of anger, but because I needed space to be me again, without her shadow hanging over every part of my day. I went back to the gym, not for revenge body nonsense, but because I needed to feel strong again, in control, present in my own skin. I reconnected with old friends, told the truth when they asked what happened, didn't sugarcoat it, didn't play victim, just told the story, my story. And for once, I didn't feel ashamed. Therapy helped, more than I expected. I thought I'd sit there and rant about her for an hour each week, but it quickly turned into something deeper. It wasn't just about what she did. It was about why I let it keep happening. Why I felt responsible for fixing someone who was committed to breaking themselves, and me in the process. I started unpacking childhood wounds, old patterns, learned behaviors, the way I confused loyalty with self-destruction, the way I believed that love was measured by how much pain you were willing to endure for someone else. But the truth is, love doesn't require suffering. Love shouldn't feel like walking through glass barefoot every day and calling it devotion. There were setbacks, of course, moments when the loneliness crept in like fog, when I wondered if I'd ever trust again, when I questioned whether I was too damaged now, too closed off to let anyone new in. But little by little, the fog began to lift. I started laughing again, real laughter, not the forced kind you give to avoid questions. I started sleeping through the night. I started making plans that didn't involve anyone else's approval or compromise. And eventually I started feeling light, not happy exactly, but lighter, like I was no longer dragging her mistakes behind me like a chain. That's when I knew I was healing, not because I forgave her, not because I found someone new, but because I could think about what happened without it controlling me. I stopped trying to rewrite the past. I stopped hoping she'd change. And most importantly, I stopped hating myself for staying as long as I did. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go of someone who hurt you. It's forgiving the version of yourself who let it keep happening, who believed that if you just loved them harder, they'd finally see you. But that's not how it works. Some people don't see you. Some people only see what they can take from you. And the bravest thing you'll ever do is walk away. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally started loving yourself.